Well, I think that we have already a group of people connected and willing to start with the presentation. So we'll start with this webinar. Thank you, everybody that is still joining. My name is Javier Alvarez. I am the chairman of the British-Argentine Chamber of Commerce. I'm very happy to be this afternoon sharing this online event for launching a project that has as a main product a paper that we started to work early in this year. We have here sharing the screen with me, Jonathan Molyneux, a partner at ERM, based in the United Kingdom. One of the persons that been from the very beginning helping with shaping this idea. We have Jimena Blanco, director at Beris Maplecroft. Thank you very much, Jimena, for joining as well, from Spain. Also, Jimena being one of the person that started again from the beginning of the idea, helping to shape how we were going to put together all these energies with the shape of a paper that we try to showcase and try to put into an easy way to understand it and read it. What are the main opportunities on businesses in Argentina and the UK, and which are the key figures that represent the current trade balance between the two countries. And finally, we go Juan Ignacio Carranza from Buenos Aires, Argentina. Juan Ignacio is a lawyer and been a key member of the team for this paper, because Juan helped me to edit all the content of this paper. That it happened thanks to mainly the collaboration of more of a dozen of experts and stakeholders that in a very generous way invested their time to put together information in a series of chapters going through different sectors that shape the bilateral trade between Argentina and the UK. The British-Argentine Chamber of Commerce is a British limited company set up in the 1990s in the United Kingdom. We got our headquarters in London, and our objective is to promote businesses and opportunities on different projects between the United Kingdom and Argentina. So we are going through a presentation of Jonathan and Jimena on different chapters and a general overview from Juan. I particularly like to thank again all the people that been part of the writing team of this paper. I hope that Juan Ignacio, you could go through the list of the people that collaborated on this actively, and very especially the British ambassador in Buenos Aires, Kirsty Hayes, and the Argentine ambassador in London, Mariana Plaza, who are also part of this paper and share some words and thoughts that are part of this paper. So thank you again for everybody that helped on this. The paper will be online soon. You will be able to access to the PDF with the full information. And again, this is the first step of an idea of a continuous process where we hope to keep adding cases, information, and updating this paper to make it a useful piece or tool that will keep also the momentum of the growing bilateral trade between the two countries. So again, thank you everybody, and I would invite Jonathan Molyneux from ERM to start with our presentation of this afternoon. Thanks.
Actually, Javier, just to check, I think Jimena may kick us off.
Yes.
Okay.
Don't worry.
Yes.
I'll kick us off. Thank you,
Yeah,
and then I'll hand over to Jonathan.
I had the old version of the programs here with me. So Jimena, you're very welcome to start the afternoon with the first presentation, very much related to some of the key chapters of this paper. Thank you.
Thank you, Javier, and good afternoon, everyone, and really thank you for taking the time to join us today. So as Javier just mentioned, I will try to give you an overview of the white paper on UK and Argentina bilateral trade and investment opportunities, which the BACC is publishing on the website tomorrow. So as Javier mentioned, this report came from an idea from different members of the chamber, and it's really grounded in the latest economic data and sectoral analysis, trying to outline which are the growing avenues for British investments in Argentina and vice versa across a variety of industries. So I think it's really important to highlight that the report is being launched within a positive context in bilateral relations, which I think those of us who had the opportunity of attending the Argentina Day at the Argentine residence in London during LME Week earlier this month had the pleasure of experiencing firsthand in relation to one of the crucial sectors that, of course, we discuss in depth in the paper. So I would like to start with the overall contents of the paper. As many of you know, Argentina is currently in the process of major economic transformation, with the current administration prioritizing business-friendly reforms. And these efforts are making Argentina a really compelling investment destination for British businesses that are looking to diversify and expand. So in terms of a bit of context, bilateral trade has exceeded £2 billion recently, which is marking a historic high. And there are over 110 British companies that already successfully operate in Argentina. And of course, Argentine technology firms are increasingly using the UK as an international hub for their operations. So these mutual investments are not just a testament to the shared economic interests between the two countries, but they also highlight that there's a promising future for the bilateral relationship. So in the paper, we focus in key sectors of opportunity, 7 in particular, and I'll tell you a bit about some of the highlights of these, but of course, we cover agribusiness, we look at renewable energies, we also look at critical minerals, the oil and gas industry, sustainable finance, the wine industry, and last but certainly not least, tourism. So I'll just very briefly explore each one of these because I think the most important aspect is for all of you to read the paper when it comes out tomorrow. So when it comes to agribusiness, of course, this is a key sector for Argentina. It accounts for over 50% of exports, and it truly has a proven track record in global markets. And despite recent droughts, the sector is currently recovering strongly in 2024, and exports are expected to increase by nearly 50%. Now, given the UK's focus on resilient food supply chains, this sector really represents a strategic opportunity for investment in sustainable agriculture and in food security. So collaborations here would strengthen both countries' supply chain resilience while providing British investors with access to a vast export-driven industry. Now, if we turn to renewable energy, Argentina's presence in this sector has expanded dramatically over the last decade, with solar and wind capacity now exceeding 4,000 megawatts. And the nation's rich natural resources, particularly in Patagonia's wind belt, are complemented by the UK's expertise in offshore wind and energy storage. So together, both countries can lead in renewable energy technology development. And this sector's alignment with both nations' climate goals and economic interests really makes it a promising area for British expertise and investment. Now, when we're talking about critical minerals, of course, we all know that Argentina is a key player in the lithium triangle, which holds 70% of the world's lithium reserves, and it is also advancing copper production. So with the global shift towards clean energy and electric vehicles in particular, demand for lithium and copper is set to rise significantly, which makes this a very attractive sector for investment. And the UK's advanced mining technologies and experience can play a crucial role in Argentina's production, with potential returns on investment linked to the accelerating demand for EV batteries. And conversely, Argentina can also support British mining companies and manufacturers in strengthening supply chain security in relation to these minerals. Another area where I think, oil and gas, we don't really need to introduce Vaca Muerta, because the shale formation ranks as one of the world's largest and most economically viable shale deposits. And it's attracting interest in natural gas production and LNG export infrastructure. So here, British expertise in natural gas storage and transportation could be instrumental as Argentina aims to become a key LNG global supplier. And this partnership could also support the UK's energy security and diversify its energy sources, while Argentina would benefit from foreign expertise and capital. And of course, all of these energy sectors we've been discussing are highly linked to sustainable finance, where the UK is truly at the forefront. And Argentina's emerging sustainability framework offers a new frontier for British investors. And with roughly £2 billion in identified sustainable investment opportunities, particularly when we're talking about agriculture, infrastructure, and renewable energy, British investors can provide essential financial products to address Argentina's climate challenges. And the UK's experience in green finance could accelerate the development of Argentina's sustainable financial market as well. Now, if we turn to another linked area, and one we sometimes enjoy, particularly if you're in the UK, Argentina's wine experts and Malbec in particular have a solid reputation in the UK market. And while currently it only represents about 1% or just above 1% of the UK's wine imports, there is still significant room for growth. And Argentina's unique wine growing regions and commitment to sustainable practices offer a pathway for British investors to tap into well-regarded export products coming from Argentina. So here, collaboration could expand Argentina's market share in the UK, while at the same time promoting sustainable viticulture practices. And last, but certainly not least, tourism is an attractive area of investment, particularly as a destination for British tourists with rich cultural, natural, and culinary offerings. Now, the tourism sector's potential is evidenced by a forecasted investment increase of £7.3 billion by 2034, and investments in hotel infrastructure, in ecotourism, and in regional air connectivity are some of the key areas where British expertise and capital can enhance Argentina's tourism industry, particularly to meet this rising demand for sustainable travel experiences. So in conclusion, the report really highlights a very dynamic and mutually beneficial relationship between the UK and Argentina, offering British investors a diverse set of opportunities across well-established as well as emerging industries. And the sectors outlined provide pathways for sustainable, profitable ventures that align with the economic, the environmental, and the security goals of both countries. So we really look forward to continue fostering this closer economic ties with Argentina and building a prosperous future together. So with that, I'll say thank you for your time. I encourage you to explore the detailed insights and opportunities presented in the full report that will be published tomorrow, as I mentioned. And I'll hand over to Jonathan to give us some more in-depth comments on the content of specific areas. Thank you.
Thanks, Jimena. And yeah, I'd like to echo what a pleasure actually the development of this white paper has been. It's been something of a process of discovery, I think, pulling all of these threads together and revealing revealing a very rich opportunity, and one that promises fantastic growth opportunities for bilateral trade and inward investment in Argentina. As you say, you skimmed through very, very eloquently the 7 sectors that our report covers. And it seems to me as though a few of those sectors are probably ones that Argentina has a deep history in and is well recognized for, and those still show tremendous growth opportunity. What's interesting though is I think this very unique moment in history. We have some major sort of events going on as far as climate change is concerned, and the electrification of the planet and our economies. And with the new administration in Argentina, the new fiscal regime, suddenly all of these things have come together to create this really unique moment for growth and an opportunity in Argentina. And I was going to illustrate that in particular. It seems because of this unique moment, there are some new sectors that seem to show a special promise and maybe haven't historically had the recognition that they now deserve. The one I was going to particularly zero in on is the critical minerals one. You did touch on it quite nicely just there, and I'd just like to take a moment to acknowledge my colleague, senior partner in ERM in Argentina, who made a very strong contribution to the critical minerals section of the white paper. So thank you, Carlos. But let's focus on those critical minerals and thinking about Argentina's mineral endowment. You mentioned copper, yes, lithium, you mentioned gold, and actually a bunch of other important metals. If you think about the geology down the western side of the Andes, there's a lot of mining development in Chile, in Peru, even up to Mexico and out into the east into Brazil. But on the eastern side of the Andes and out into Argentina, 80% of the mineral reserves of Argentina have yet to be developed. It's really quite remarkable. The sort of the blank page that's sort of there waiting to be written. And I think it's a very special opportunity. Let me use the example of copper, for instance. I expect quite a lot of people, well, I don't know, on the call, maybe you're in this world of the green energy transition, you know about your metals. But for those of you who know less about copper, it is a very important and unique metal. And the world needs an awful lot more of it. It's used extensively in building, industry, transport, and what's most important right now is electrification. And in fact, copper applications are required for about 2/3 of the technologies that the world's going to depend on for the decarbonization and the building of the new low carbon economy. So copper becomes central. So why am I going on about copper? Copper demand is forecast to rise by 20% from current levels by 2035. That's a very substantial increase. But what's difficult, especially there, is that the industry's pipeline of discoveries of new copper opportunities has really slowed down. And in fact, the pipeline is pretty much empty. The Standard & Poor are forecasting supply-demand deficit, a shortfall of supply availability by 2028, so only 3 years' time, sorry, 4 years' time. So in that implies a very strong market for copper. It takes a little bit longer than 4 years to build a copper mine, but yeah, the forecast, it looks very, very promising for copper. In Argentina, actually, there is already a lot of activity and interest in the mining and metals sector. It's awoken just in the last few years, particularly, and a number of the major mining companies are already either engaged in operations or exploration and development of projects. Organizations like Rio Tinto have a lithium project at Rincon, Newmont have a gold operation, Glencore, BHP, First Quantum, they're all very active already, but there are also some mid-tier mining companies like Lake Resources and Integra Lithium. These companies are already very active in the area and have started to make investments. There are 63 mining projects spread out over 11 of Argentina's provinces, and when you add up the amount of capital committed to those various projects, it totals $33 billion. So that sounds a lot, but in fact, as I said earlier, 80% of the mineral endowment is as yet undeveloped. So while it sounds like there's activity, I think it's reassurance that and verification that this opportunity is real, but it's not saying that, it's saying that the opportunity is still wide open and very interesting for inward investment and exploitation. And I guess we should ask ourselves, why now? Why are these companies suddenly so active in Argentina? Well, as I mentioned earlier, and Jimena mentioned, the new incentives program for large investments, RIGI, it was released only in July this year, and it has completely switched the investment regime for these major investments that are required to develop and bring new mines on. So it's really a game changer, and it's more as much a financial mechanism as an invitation from the new administration and a commitment to support these long-term investments that are required for mining, but actually for other industries and major investments behind the other sectors that our report talks about. Back on mining in particular, and many of you will know that mining's a difficult business. It's been around for many years and is very dependent on public support. Only a few years ago, public support in Argentina for mining was 37%, but today it has risen to 65%. So that's saying that, again, the population, society of Argentina are recognizing the potential of the resources, and they're supportive of the nation developing them and partnering with inward investment companies. But I think we have to have a word of caution. Argentina is a sophisticated society, and their expectations, society's expectations of mining companies will be high. So the invitation is for international mining companies to bring what they've learned from around the world to build a new generation of future-facing mines that are sensitive to today's sustainability challenges, which are very important to the Argentine population. And I think it's critical to build this industry with the Argentine society, stakeholders, authorities in a consultative way. But with that, the opportunity is fantastic for returns on investment. It's really a really important moment for the world's decarbonization efforts, particularly with the copper and lithium reserves in Argentina. I think Argentina really can play a huge part in bridging that demand-supply gap that I mentioned. And I think it's a great illustration of the growth opportunities that across those other 7 sectors in the report, other 6 sectors, plus critical minerals, right now, this moment in history is a fantastic moment for growth opportunities in Argentina and bilateral trade with the UK and other European nations. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jonathan. My name is Juan Carranza. I'm really happy of being here after months of work. We finally made it and presenting this white paper that we all developed together with Jonathan, with Jimena, with Javier, with Sophia, with Marina, our designer, but also the collaboration of many members of the chamber. I don't want to leave anyone not mention anyone from all the collaborators that we had, but I can tell you, besides of ERM, we had a really useful collaboration from CEARE, from the Center of el Centro de Estudios de la Actividad Regulatoria Energética from the University of Buenos Aires, talking about gas and the opportunities for hydrogen. We also had collaboration on the sustainable finance chapter, of course, of Jimena's team, but also from Balance Capital. And in the wine industry, Claudio Oliveira guided us there to get some insights and even develop interviews and case studies with different companies that foster bilateral relations between Argentina and the United Kingdom. Let me just tell you what I'm going to speak about, and it's about the economic synergies between the Argentina and the United Kingdom. And to do that, we build that upon two pillars. One was the present trade and investment dynamics, right? But also, in this white paper, you'll find how we forecast opportunities to increase and enhance investment and opportunity growth between the countries. Let me just give you some data that reveals the current present trade and investment dynamics between Argentina and UK. A relevant data that we have is that over the last 10 years, trade between Argentina and the United Kingdom has increased by a 52%, having a peak point in 2022 when bilateral trade was 2.16 billion pounds. And a reference point and our base point was 2014 when it was 1.3, and that shows that trade is showing dynamism and opportunities between the two countries. In terms of the 5 top export products from the UK, we have a diverse offer. We can see that most of goods were included mechanical power generators, pharmaceutical products, whereas in Argentina, most of those exports to the United Kingdom were focused on agriculture products. So we can see that this already tells us something about the complementarity of this two economies. But to forecast of how we can enhance and improve in terms of quality and amount, trade and investment opportunities between Argentina and UK, we developed in using a powerful tool called the product space, which allows us to classify using the export basket of each countries, which products each country identifies. And I'm gonna just give you some advance of just to show you these figures that we developed. So you can see, I think this is a pretty visual figure. I'm gonna try to share my screen with you. Let me just hold for a second. You're gonna see here that these are 900 products that have been selected, taking into consideration the export baskets of each country, and each country has one of its own product space, and it highlights which products are developing. So here in Argentina, you're going to see that most of the products are highlighted in yellow. That shows that the productive matrix of Argentina is mostly agricultural issues, while there are other components, but mostly are yellow. And this is, of course, correlated what I had previously said about trade, which main exports to the United Kingdom have been agricultural products. And this is the United Kingdom's product space, right? Which shows a more diverse economy and shows how many of different products, these are mostly goods, not services. The United Kingdom is capable of producing and exporting. So what we developed in terms to show the complementarity of these two economies was overlapping these product spaces. So in red, you'll see United Kingdom's exports United Kingdom's product space, and in green, you'll see Argentina exports. And this shows the case of how these two economies are complement to each other. And this shows signals for opportunities for business and trade. And this has also been highlighted in the 7 vertical sectors that we cover through all the entire report, and gives us perspective for enhancing and increasing opportunities. But both Jimena and Jonathan also highlighted the importance of context, right? And I think this is important to say again. I was recently here in Buenos Aires in the morning. Here it's past noon, but in the morning I was in an investment forum organized in downtown Buenos Aires, and they mentioned these sectors that we spoke about and identify in our report. But the main difference, besides how each economy is complements one to each other, is context. And here in Argentina now we have momentum. The economy is getting stabilized, of course, with a lot of trade-offs, but inflation is going down. There seems to be more stability. And as Jonathan pointed out, the RIGI, the regime for incentivizing large export investment products for and fostering FDI, is still is a powerful tool to meet all this demands that we need, both mostly in the critical mineral sides, but also on the oil and gas sides. Argentina has a role to play in terms of the energy transition and its gas reserves that has in Vaca Muerta. And we do believe that this momentum is building up. And I remember when we were discussing this paper with Javier and all the members of the Chamber of Commerce, what would happen with this momentum if this will keep on happening. And I think that I would say that here in Argentina, most of these issues have been society. We've been learning about the importance and acknowledging the importance of having a macroeconomic stability. So this momentum between this administration, but also I would say most focus on the society, gives us momentum to keep on enhancing bilateral trade, bilateral investment opportunities between both countries. And we do believe and we hope that this white paper is a guide for that purpose. So having said that, we have plenty of time to for the public and participants for any Q&A. This is something that I'm in charge. I know we have different attendees here. You can do some Q&As, or even, I don't know if we can also open up the mic for anyone here participating.
Yes, maybe if they raise their hand, I can bring them into the call. But I just approved 2 Q&A questions. Can you see where's the Q&A? For everyone, the Q&A, it's on the right side next to the chat. There's an activities, you press on activities, then you find the Q&A and add a question. And also that's where you can find the questions to answer.
Okay, so I'm reading a question here. How are new regulations benefiting investment? Maybe Jonathan, do you want to talk about RIGI, or Jimena?
I'm happy to take a first pass if you want. I think when we think about the trend, not only globally, but within the region, what we're seeing increasingly is countries closing their economies more and more, increasing number of harmful trade interventions around the world, increasing competition between states. And when we look at Argentina in a way, and against the trend is an outlier, And we often have talked about Argentina as an outlier in other historic moments for negative reasons. In this particular moment, if you're thinking about business and investment, it's an outlier for positive reasons, because Argentina is looking to open its economy, it's looking to attract investment, it's looking to ease investment. And we've seen that through a variety of reforms, and Jonathan mentioned one particular vehicle. But I think if you're looking at, the overall sentiment, looking at the country from overseas, is that it's trying to provide predictability and stable regulatory frameworks that are more friendly to doing business in the country, to generate quality employment, and to develop the economic sectors that it needs to develop in order to sustain economic recovery over over a prolonged period of time. So from that perspective, Argentina is becoming increasingly interesting. I was in conversation over the past 2 weeks in the United States about Argentina, and there's a lot of positive outlook. Now, what does Argentina need to do in terms of, I think that was the other question, of attracting that investment? And much of the answer is stay the course, because one of the historic challenges of the country is that there tends to be regulatory changes depending on the political momentum, and a key piece for investors, particularly when we're talking about industries that have a very long time horizon in terms of investment, like we talked about energy industries, where we're not looking at 2 or 3 year timelines, but 30-year timelines. Staying the course and providing that stability is crucial to bring investors into the country.
Jonathan, I think I have a question here for you that comes from Salvador Melemazza. It says, consider Jonathan's comment that a big part of Argentina's mineral reserves are still unexploited. What do you think Argentina should do as a next step to foster investments in that area?
Well, I'd echo the point. There is already extensive geological data around the mineral resources, but obviously those need to be explored commercially by the mining and exploration companies. I think Argentina is doing the right things. I mean, if you think, for example, that in the last only in the last month we had in London the London Metal Exchange Week, LME Week, and it wasn't a coincidence that 5 Argentine governors and their delegations and 2 ministers arrived in London for that week. There was an event at the House of Lords, supported by many sort of important stakeholders around UK minerals, critical minerals industry. So I think the administration is reaching out very energetically, and so are the provinces. I think each province, as you know, is rather unique. They each have their own geology and opportunities, but they are working together and projecting something of a united front on behalf of the nation to attract these inward investors and working together to support the development. I think on the still to do list, there are questions of infrastructure, both physical and electrical. From an energy provision perspective, some of these locations are where the minerals can be found are relatively remote, but there are also existing railways for transporting product in many locations. So there's a lot of work to do, but a long way of answering a great question is to say I think Argentina is already doing the toughest thing, which is reaching out and demonstrating willingness to partner and work with inward investors from overseas.
Thank you, Jonathan. I have another question that is around What do we perceive as the biggest barrier to bilateral cooperation between our two nations over the next few years?
Well,
Jimena?
I mean, coming from one of the challenges that we've often faced as part of the BACC is often lack of knowledge, not only on Argentina in particular, but maybe we often talk about this cultural challenge of presenting Latin America to investors in the United Kingdom, who often look at other parts of the world, Sub-Saharan Africa or Southeast Asia, as areas where they have more established connections. But I think, you know, we are doing as a chamber part of that work, which is, you know, putting the opportunities in front of investors and doing this education piece, if you want to call it as such, about what is happening in the country. And I think, as Juan, you mentioned very well in your area, about the complementarity of both economies and how there are opportunities you know, to be exploited in Argentina by British investors, but also lots of opportunities that Argentina can offer, or that the UK can offer for Argentine companies looking to export into other markets. So I think sometimes the biggest barrier is not knowing what's out there, and finding out and getting that, you know, knowledge piece in place is crucial.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jimena. And I think what we're doing here is part of this, right? Raising awareness and showing this is a tool for that purpose. And that's why we developed this white paper. Exactly. We have one more question. It comes from Christian. I think he might be a little bit nostalgic. I think we touched this a little bit in our white paper. It's about, has the possibility of British investment in the railway sector has been considered, taking into account that England played an important role in the development of the railway more than a century ago? Well, we certainly, I'm gonna try to answer this question, humbly trying to answer this question. We have certainly addressed some issues around the context of Argentina is going on right now, and in terms of railways, we are seeing that there's an interest of the national administration to get some SOEs into the hands of the private sector, and that opens opportunities for foreign investors, and eventually that could pave the way for the entrance of British capitals. There's not I mean, maybe in the mining sector, in oil and gas, maybe there's not something specifically in terms of infrastructure, but having said that, again, in the infrastructure sector, we're seeing a lot of projects come in the midstream sector mostly for gas, under the framework of RIGI, as Jonathan pointed out. And I can imagine that these are the big infrastructure projects that this administration is going on. In terms of railways, I would mostly think that it comes from a perspective of an urban perspective, and not in terms of the 7 sectors that we identified, and more in transportation of passengers and urban areas. We're good with time. I'm happy that we're good in time. We have 10 minutes left. We don't have any questions left. Jimena, Jonathan, Javier, I don't know if you want to add up some things. I have one idea to add based on what Jonathan said about the role of provinces here, right? And it gives a perspective of a long-term perspective. But please, Jimena, Jonathan, any closing remarks on your side?
Maybe just one reflection from me, and it's more the bigger picture. Thanks for not asking me the question on the railways, by the way. I liked your hint on the nostalgia. Yeah, as I think about the next sort of 15, 20 years, it does feel as though the world is really facing some dramatic changes. The catchphrase deglobalization and the conflict and the restructuring of supply chains, industry nationalism, all of these things that are buzzing around in our world, our thinking at the moment. So there's a lot of uncertainty on value chains and trade routes and so on. Obviously, there's a huge dominance and a shift of dominance to the east, and yet it feels as though, again, an unappreciated factor is the sort of stability and geographic sort of position of Southern America and Argentina in particular. And it just feels as though there is a special opportunity over that time frame for supply chains and business flows to reconfigure, between Argentina and North America and Europe. It's not a specific sort of point back with numbers, and yet it feels as though from a big picture perspective, we should anticipate and prepare for and take part in some of these big shifts that are probably going to be taking place. Jimena, what were you thinking?
I was just thinking, we often, I specialize in risk, but where there's risk, there's always opportunity. And I think what you were just saying, Jonathan, is talking about some of the global risks. I think the word geopolitics has never been so much in vogue before, or at least, in the past, say, 20 years or so. And when there are shifts globally, there's always opportunities. And I think in this particular occasion, Argentina could be reaping the benefits of some of these tensions globally. And it's a great time and place for us to have done this white paper. So I'd invite everyone to check it out and to reach out if you have any particular suggestions or proposals in relation to, what could we be doing next to continue building these bilateral opportunities between Argentina and the UK.
Thank you, Jimena. Thank you, Jonathan. I'm going to just add one tiny thing, and I'm going to leave Javier to close our event. I would say that our feeling is, and what we are feeling, but also facts, right? The recent visit of governors to London, talking about mining. I mean, we've seen many governors of Argentina in several roadshows willing and aiming to participate in this global affairs issues, and fully aware of this, as Jimena had said, of the challenges of the risk and the challenges, the geopolitical risk that the world is facing, and fully aware of the role that Argentina has to play there. And I think this is important to highlight the role of the governors. Argentina is a federal country. Yes, of course, the presidency has a key role, but in terms of, and let me just clarify, in terms of critical minerals, in terms of energy, they do play a key role, these governors, because they belong, these resources, these natural resources belong to the provinces. So for me, it has been I've been following this for the last 4 years, and I've seen how crucial and aware and educated are these governors and want to participate in this debate. So I'm happy to highlight this and raise awareness of the possibilities that we have, and very happy to have participated in this white paper. Hope it's useful. We're waiting for your feedback. Hope you can use the chamber as a means for doing business, because trade and investment business is a way from integration. So I think that's the magical word, right, in this challenging times that we have. So thank you all for being here. I'm going to pass it to Javier, so the chairman of the chamber, so he can close the event, and looking forward for more.